Hey, I'm Dr. Susanna Bozzoni, and today we're going to talk about macronutrients. Why? Because everyone's obsessed with them. Even all the journal articles, they're obsessed with them. What's the profile of macronutrients? That is how much fat, protein, and carbohydrate I'm getting. And all these people are terrified of carbohydrates, right? And they want to eat high protein. I get asked all the time, how do I get 30 grams of protein in each meal? You know, and so we're really obsessed with these macronutrient endpoints. But why? Because we don't eat protein, we don't eat fat, and we don't eat carbohydrates. We eat food, and food has all of those things in it, and the balance of the food and the effect of the food is what's important, right? Because not all protein is created equal, very much like not all carbohydrates are created equal. A kidney bean is not the same as a jelly bean. They're both carbohydrates, right? So what do we want to do? We want to ask the endpoint of the food, that is the package that we're eating. And what we should really be asking when we look at all these studies, and they always break down, okay, they were eating this many percentage of carb or protein or fat or whatever, but we don't really know what they were eating. What was the food? And when we know that certain foods, whether it's in the world of carbohydrate or protein and or both or whatever, or fat, right? They have an endpoint. They have an effect that either increases or decreases inflammation, that improves or compromises blood flow, that either supports or does not support, the opposite of that, I can't think of that word right now, the microbiome, right? Remembering the microbiome, these trillions of organisms that line our entire intestinal tract create the environment where our genes can turn on or turn off disease. All those things. The other thing that food does is it has a thermic effect on us. That is, the thermic effect of food is how much energy it requires for us to digest and utilize that food. That's pretty cool. So the package is what makes the difference and the endpoint, right? And we see what improves the thermic effects. That is that I can burn more calories by choosing certain foods to eat, or even certain patterns of eating them. So if I eat larger meals fewer times in the day, I improve my thermic effect, or I increase my thermic effect of food. If I eat more low-fat, whole food, plant-based food, it takes more energy to break that stuff down. We want to work for it, right? We want to increase protein. Protein has the highest thermic effect of food, followed by carbohydrates, and then fat has very, very little. And that makes sense, because what do we not want to do? Our end point, whether we eat excess calories of excess protein or excess carbohydrate or certainly excess fat, where are we going to store it? We're going to store it as fat, right? So that's an easy slam dunk that doesn't take a lot of work to store fat, right? But that being said, what is in your package should be the question that we ask, and what is the endpoint that it results in? So thinking about macronutrients and getting these questions so often, and I see so sadly people throw away the baby with the bathwater in the terms of especially carbohydrates. I eat low carbohydrates. They're terrified of carbohydrates, and then they're afraid of some of the strongest linked foods to longevity more than anything, like beans. Oh, I like to keep my carbs in. Or berries, right? Fruit is so good for you in its whole form. You know, these are such delicious and wonderful foods, and we should be consuming them on a regular basis and not bucket them into carbs and therefore avoid them. I did look, though, at what my typical macronutrient profile is out of a curiosity, right? And I had my typical breakfast, which I've given to you on a video before, and what it basically is ground flax with tahini, sauerkraut, turmeric, black pepper, chipotle, oh, that increases my thermic effect, among these other things, and nutritional yeast. And I mix that with a little bit of juice from the sauerkraut, and the tahini makes it a thick dressing, and I toss in a ton of arugula, maybe broccoli sprouts. Today I put beans in it, black beans, because there were some, and I actually put some frozen cherries. I know that might seem weird, but a little bit of sweet in that mix is so yummy. Sometimes I don't do frozen cherries combined with the beans, but I did that today. And oh my gosh, it satisfies me forever. It's so good. It is actually very high in protein. I broke this down and I'm gonna show you what I ate today and show you what my macronutrients are. Not that it's important, because I feel satiated, I feel energized, I feel very low in inflammation, and my labs show that to be true. I have very low LDL, and it's working for me. It might not work for you, and there's not one recipe of macronutrient that fits all. What did I have for lunch? I generally have a kind of light lunch because I like to eat in kind of a relatively small window, maybe 10, 2, and 6, something like that. But I eat something light, like almond butter with fresh fruit or frozen blueberries, and then I put a bunch of fresh ginger and cardamom and cinnamon in there, and some raw oats because I just can't be bothered to cook them. And maybe I'll throw in some Ezekiel cereal on top, or maybe I'll just put in more raw oats and I stir it around in soy milk, and it's delicious and it's light and it's easy and I can keep working and it doesn't take a lot of time. And then at dinner, I put on here my tempeh, cannellini bean, tahini. I'm obsessed with tahini, you might be able to tell, with caramelized onions and garlic on top of some brown rice and some kale, some like sauteed kale. Okay, so all that together, I put, what does that look like, just out of curiosity, because I didn't know. And I actually easily made, what was it, 114 grams of protein in that day. And how was my protein split? Again, not that it matters, but for me, it works, right? And I feel good after it. And so I had my biggest amount of protein was at dinner at 41% because of all those delicious beans and the tempeh. Oh, how amazing. And then at lunch, I had 25% of my protein. At breakfast, I had 34% protein. There was a lot of protein in there. Oh, I put hemp hearts in the lunch too. I forgot that. And so how am I dividing my calories? My largest meal is really breakfast and dinner. They're about equivalent. And then I have a lighter lunch. This is how I do it. I often encourage people to have a lighter dinner, especially if it's a later dinner. But I have a relatively early dinner, and that does well for me. And then my highest fat, knowing that, yes, I ate a fair amount of fat, a lot more than I actually realized, but the vast majority of the fat, I had very little saturated fat. So I'm trying to find it here. Only 16 grams of the 124 grams of fat that I ate. And that's a lot, right? I'm not trying to fight diabetes. I'm not working with weight loss or anything like that. This is just how I eat to satiate myself and to support my very high energy level and my very high exercise level, right? But I only had 16 grams out of my 124 grams of saturated fat. But I had 47 grams of PUFAs, the polyunsaturated fats, because, I'm just kind of obsessed with ground flax. I put hemp hearts in there. I put, it's just good, man. And then monounsaturated had about 25 grams. So what I think is probably most important, more than any of that, is that I ate 88 freaking grams of fiber, right? And, it's fun. My microbiome has loads of diversity in it. It's so fun. Fiber's good. It keeps me satiated. That's the point. So don't obsess over your macronutrients. Ask what's in your package. That should be your end point. And what does it do to your body, to your energy? Is it a true reward to get you where you want to go, to fuel your most vital self? Thank you for your time, and subscribe if you want to. Goodbye.